there's less there's less likely that pay rises and things like that are going to make that much of a sustainable impact. I know from personal experience, when I was miserable in a job, asking and getting a pay rise, I was like, oh cool, I had a spring in my step again for about a week. And it wears off because I don't feel like I belong, I feel like I'm being micromanaged too much, the climate is all a bit off or whatever it may be. So this, taking from here, looking at this model, let's do a little workshop on this. What have you tried? Looking at this model, this formula, what have you tried or haven't tried to boost engagement? What do you do already to engage your employees? What do you do to engage yourself in tasks that motivate yourself? What do you do to boost positive emotions within yourself and in your team? Any ideas? Do we not? No, we don't.
We set some goals and stuff, and we try and hit the goals to do like some kind of event, make fun.
That's kind of engagement. Yeah. Does that kind of thing, it's working to a degree? Do you see what improvements in things like motivation, or is it feel like do they like get excited about it?
I guess it's hard to kind of quantify it. Yeah, we probably need we're doing stuff like that, and I guess it does help to some degree. But then it's hard if you don't necessarily hit the goal you're trying to get to.
Yeah. Yeah, goals can have that magic power, but they can be a bit deflating a bit too at times, yeah. You guys said?
I can add to it, you want me to add to it?
Please, yeah.
I went to a seminar once, and there was about 2,000-3,000 people there, and someone asked exactly the same question. What do you do to your team? How do you get the outcomes from your team? And it boiled down to one word, and the word was love.
Beautiful.
And
love it.
You got to love what you do. You got to love your business. You got to love your team, and most importantly, you got to love your customers.
Yeah.
And that flows through. And that's exactly how we base our business.
Love it. So good. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it, and I'd like to expand on it, that it's all about that purpose and passion, and being in flow. And being in flow is just having that optimum well-being, as you were speaking earlier.
Yeah.
So it's just, for me, motivation doesn't work. It might get me started, but as we know, it only gets started.
Yeah.
It won't last. So it's
Yes.
all about feeling inspired. And I think inspiration comes when you're doing what you love.
Yeah. So how can we help? Maybe engagement is there's a prompt or a motivator, like a goal or a new KPI or something like that. But in what way could it invoke learning in that team or that staff member? What does it align with their own personal interest with something? What can they get in love with? Are you in love with about what you do and how you service your customers or in the nature of your business or your personal life that you can relate to in your staff or your team? Because then there's that sense of belonging and relatedness as well that comes from that. Yes.
Marcus, I think what we have found, one of the effective way to get employee engaged is give them information. For example, if the group have a goal, whether it's revenue goals or other performance goal like customer service type of response, what you share with them constantly, they know where they are and how well they perform. We found they really find out
feedback.
like a competition.
Feedback as well, is that what you're talking about? Feedback. Yeah. Feedback is crucial. Yeah. Who does goal setting? Maybe working feedback. I'm sure you're working feedback. So with the goal setting process, so we set the goal, we need to monitor, we need feedback, and then review. So that's a sort of a cycle in terms of goal theory. That's really, really important too. Yeah.
For us, what I would do is whenever we bring in new technology that we're working with. So usually, for example, we're working with Amazon Web Servers, and they come with a list of trainings. And with the trainings, you get certificates, right? So what I do is I always encourage my team to get the certificates. They will get a certain bonus based on that certificates, and I think that really motivates them because they wouldn't have access to these certificates if they were on their own. They are only getting it part of the company and the work we're doing.
So they're getting a personal learning benefit as well as
yes. So the certificates are in their name. So even if they don't work.
So you're supporting their own career benefit.
Exactly. I think that's. I think like when I think of their own well-being and their own career progress, it kind of reflects on the work we are doing.
Yeah.
and I've seen the benefits of this. Like they always come up, like after finishing the certificate, they would come back with new ideas and new tools, and they would come up with tools that I didn't know existed.
Yeah, that's a great example, which will, I think, highlight, it'll be an example that highlights one theory that I'll get to in a sec. But just some goals 101 is, they should be very, very behavioural and very specific, and apply, incorporate monitoring and feedback, and be related to someone's own personal values as well as much as possible. Otherwise it is just a KPI and you're doing it, it's more like a contract or a condition. I won't get this, if I don't do this, I won't be paid. There's a basic contract, I guess, with any business relationship, employee and employer, but at the end of the day, I think if we want to talk about things like engagement and going beyond and improve performance and productivity and our business in the long run, we need to get into the meat of psychology a little bit more. Thank you. So I would argue all things begin and end with leadership, and in particular there's an approach to leadership I'm particularly, let's just say, fond of, love, and it speaks to what Frank mentioned, and it's authentic leadership, which is a framework for really expanding on what he was talking about. Love what you do, be very clear about what you do. Authentic leadership is really, it's a construct of leadership, so it can be trained, it can be developed, but it speaks to your heart and it speaks to my heart, which is why I'm drawn to it. It's founded on 4 principles, which is self-awareness, unbiased processing, relational transparency, and internalized moral perspective. So as the name suggests, it does inspire trust, it inspires engagement in employees, and it permeates. It actually, you find the authentic leader and the authentic organisation extends to the community. It's an organisation and a person or people that employees want to work for. It's beyond the contract, it's beyond the command and control structure of a typical leadership environment. But it's based on, I guess, one of the principles which I've invited you to have a quick think about though. It's actually a personal growth model in a way, as much as it's talked about in leadership. So I think of myself as an authentic leader. I'm very big on things like self-awareness. Unbiased processing is taking the time. To what degree do you take the time to weigh up your decisions? In short, it's the respond, don't react approach. And a relational transparency, someone who's transparent relationally is someone who's honest. They account for their mistakes, they take responsibility, there's appropriate degrees of vulnerability. That inspires confidence and trust in people. Now, you don't have to be a blubbering mess. We obviously want to hold ourselves together, but it's like, oh yeah, I effed up here. Instead of like taking it out, yeah, but I wouldn't have effed up. You bloody people have done this. That's not authentic leadership. That doesn't bring love to an organisation. That doesn't inspire trust and confidence. If I love you, I don't know about you, but I want to work harder for you. And I know this, it's a little again, since Adam's given us the time to come. There's trainers at Adam's gym which I go to, and I love working harder for some more than others because of my relationship with them, right? So think about that. Love is about giving. So how self-aware, a little exercise, how self-aware do you think you are? So out of 10, like mentally, out of 10, how self-aware do you think you are?
I'd like to say 9, and only because I practice mindfulness and meditation, so I have to practice what I preach. Hence, I'm claiming that, but I could be unaware of the unconsciousness that blind spots I don't know. But I'd like to think that I'm at 9 because I'm doing what science says.
Self-awareness is a practice. It's not an outcome. So it's an invitation to think about what number you might assign to yourself, so you can reflect on, why did I assign that number? Why is it not 10? Why is it not 9 out of 10? Why is it 7? So what parts of myself, and how self-aware are you? It's a process. It's a learning process. But it's a way to build self-awareness. You get better at knowing yourself, which is why authentic leadership is about knowing thyself. But it means you get your goals right. It means you have better relationships. You're aware of the impact that you're having on people. And I think that's really, really important as leaders. So in sum, when you're being authentic as a leader, you inspire your employees and engender trust, enhancing performance, engagement, and internal well-being. And I literally just did an essay on this in my master's degree not long ago, and I can cite tons of literature to support that. This isn't just, trust me, Although, trust me, All right, so now a frame for all of us, but also your employees. So I think it's really important to understand fundamental motivation. And I'm going to draw upon your examples as well, which I think really highlight this. So everyone's heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Has everyone heard of that? It is a good foundation for understanding motivation. It's gotten a bit pop psychology-ish, like many things have, and a little bit misunderstood. And so there's a more sophisticated theory that I believe holds, particularly with organisations and teams, I think is a little bit more relevant. And it's a theory called self-determination theory by DC and Ryan. And it's got three fundamental components, and it actually is what informs, and it's a theoretical underpinning for authentic leadership as well, in case you're often like me and interested in that stuff. So there's three components: autonomy. This is what we need. So when I have a roof over my head and I have enough food, this is actually what I need to not survive but thrive and flourish and grow. This is what makes me feel happy and good about myself. To what degree do I have autonomy? Competence and mastery and relatedness. So autonomy is, the analogy might be, to what degree do I am I the captain of my own ship? Competence and mastery is, to what degree am I able to, given space, or feel like I have space and free rein to explore new territories, sail into deeper shores. And am I sailing with, and do I feel a part of or belonging to those with whom I'm sailing with? These are fundamental. When you think about us just being human, right? We are, the way our brains are work and wired is to not just survive, but to set ourselves up in terms of resources. And we do that relationally. Now, we have the benefit of being able to literally just go to the shops and buy our food. Like, it's just crazy. If you think about the things that we probably take for granted. So we're also then have the luxury of looking at, I get to work on feeling good about myself. This is where we're at. This is what we've done in all these hard years, and slaving away over these millennia of preceding generations. But we still have that caveman brain, and so to evolve beyond that. So this is why things like transactional motivation and command control really doesn't work in the long run, particularly where a lot of our basic survival needs are met. So I think your example highlights this model actually quite well. So you've given basically autonomy, you've given some degree of say and ownership over learning a new craft. So there's autonomy, there's competence, and it's also feeling like, maybe it's relatedness as well to your organisation, but it's also it's a sense of their own values. Like, they could take that qualification and just leave, couldn't they? And just go, and they, and you're supporting that. So that inspires trust, and there's value in there. Has anyone got any questions about these three terms? Because I want to invite you to think about how you might apply this to motivating your staff, or those points made clear. Is there any questions? So have a think about them. How could you, maybe it's a reflection to take home, how could you build into your leadership support within your people and your culture autonomy? How can I help facilitate the needs of autonomy, mastery, and relatedness? To what sense do my employees, and to what sense do you? Do you have a say over your life? Do you feel like you have a say over your life and what you do and how you spend your time? So that's the value, and I would argue that's the most important reason I'm in business. Not to make all the millions that I make. It's because I get to dictate who I work with, how I work, what kind of work I do, and the freedom and the time that I have. Now, of course, there's challenges with that, isn't there? Right? We were just talking about just before, Adam and I, it'd be easy to just go and get a job sometime. It'd be easier, but I wouldn't fulfill that need. I'd be shit bored in no time, because I'm not. So with autonomy, for instance, it's job design. I know that's a bit of a tricky one now with the work from home thing. But do you know that if you can find a way to build in autonomy, now what that can look like, I know big organisations do this, they allow 10 to 15, maybe even up to 20% of the time that people work, they're allowed to work on projects that are important to them. Now, it's still aligned with your business. It's not go and play solitaire for 2 hours. It's a meaningful project that they're interested in. Now, maybe not every business that suits, but it's just some food for thought. So a classic example of this is Google. Google allows this, and things like Gmail and Google Maps have been born out of employee projects. 3M, post-it notes come from this kind of thing. If I feel like I've got a bit of a say over what I do and how I spend my day, that's fulfilling that need. And we like to, yes, motivate it, but what extends motivation is learning. So how can I upskill? How can I help my staff and people find that challenge skills sweet spot where we're just developing our skill sets, we're breaking, crossing that threshold. And yes, the relatedness thing I think is getting people in as much as you possibly can. I don't know, maybe I'm a bit old school there, but I really think there's something to be said for putting on the uniform and coming into work. And I know how psychology works a little bit, and I know that the bracketing is a bracketing factor or an environmental factor. So working from home, there's too many, we have psychological processes in every environment. So with my lounge room, which is where I just sloth around sometimes and watch TV, is also now where I'm doing work. My brain is going to be very, very confused about where I'm at and what I'm doing. So of course, it's going to sort of default a little bit more to what it's used to doing. So as much as it's kind of touted and it's ideally thought of as work from home is a thing, and I don't know, just I'm a bit old school, and I just trust in the science, I trust in psychology. And one thing I want to note too, so I'm a coaching psych, and I think a lot of noise can be associated with coaching, and to separate myself, I guess, is defining myself as a psychologist. But what's important to understand, I guess, is why psychology, I would argue, is an important basis with which to make your decisions, is because a lot of coaches and coaching out there is based in beliefs and personality. This works for me. But that's not scalable. Psychology and biology is scalable, which basically means psychology is going to explain how we can help most of the people most of the time. So trust in the evidence. And look, before I move on to the next thing, our next thing is your greatest resource, which I would argue is your people. Yes, we say your staff, but it's you, us, your employee, their psychology, their mind. And so like with businesses, resources are vital. The more you have, the better we do. People are no different, which is where I'll now introduce and why I've aptly named my organisation Psych Capital, because developing Psych or Psych Capital is a really positive resource. So PsyCap is a training approach that I offer. It's a bang for buck strategy. Now there is reliable evidence to suggest that there's an ROI of about $2.40 to $2.70 for every dollar spent. And this is accounted for in statistics and by the researchers themselves and those organisations who explore wellbeing programs. This is what I was saying before a bit though about leaders don't know what to do. Employees, they know we want to have a wellbeing program, but don't know actually what it looks like. And this is actually one of the shortfalls and pitfalls of having wellbeing programs, and why I made the point of authentic leadership is it must be taken up. Whatever you do, even if it's an exercise thing, whatever you decide to do for a wellbeing program, it must be taken up and be authentic and supported by the leadership team, be totally embodied in the culture and climate. It can't be just something that's thrown in. This is what leads to disenfranchisement with wellbeing programs. But implement it effectively, improve productivity, performance, and build resources as to with the inner hero that I'm going to talk about in a second. And enhance engagement and wellbeing. So this approach is minimally time invasive. It's only around 2 to 3 hours. It's a group training program. If you have a very small business, I have options to potentially collaborate with other very small businesses. It works as an interactive thing. So I teach the concepts, but the teams work together to support each other at every element, which I'll cover in a second. It's a really promising approach, and I'm really passionate about it. And there's a strong evidence base across diverse populations. So they've done research for resilience, for instance, getting people going through difficulties associated with COVID. They've actually done it with clinical trials as well. It's been shown to be efficacious for people with depression, but it's primarily done with respect to performance and engagement in businesses. So the HERO is an acronym. PsyCap is a culmination, is the product of this acronym HERO, which is about hope, efficacy, resilience, and optimism. So the whole is greater than the parts. We can't just go, can you just teach my team that? Oh, this is me again, isn't it? Really? Here we go, thank you. We can't just go, can you just teach my team the resilience bit? No, not really, because the evidence is actually that these correlate and overlap and work together. So if you think about it, if I can, and these can be trained, I won't let anyone say, I'm a pessimistic, they're really pessimistic, these are not what's called trait-based, so they're called state-based phenomena, which means they can be trained and can be developed. But they have overlap. So something like optimism can be trained. And when we're a bit more optimistic, we're likely to feel a bit more efficacious, which basically means confident. And if confidence builds up, I'm going to feel a bit more resilient. And once resilience builds up, then I'm going to be more likely to achieve my goals or account for obstacles that may stand in the way of them. So just briefly, okay, so a little bit more. So what is the hope construct? How do we facilitate or foster hope? By goal setting, essentially. And it's the process of generating goals, generating pathways and steps, and celebrating small wins along the way. So what it might look in the training is set a personal goal for 3 months' time. Now this is the cool bit. This is where a lot of the magic happens. Is you might sort of go around, this is a personal goal for the next 3 months, then we come back as a group, and the group helps each other with the pathways and the steps to achieve it. Because sometimes what happens with goals is, I've got this great goal, I'd love to do this, but what do I do right now? And then the other thing that people struggle with goals is accounting for the obstacles that we might have to deal with. So together is like we all work together on each other's goals and the obstacles to overcome them. Efficacy is a fancy word for basically developing confidence. Inabilities through social persuasion. So we look back at a situation that we have struggled with and work together with how might you handle that differently or better. And we also look at situations that you have handled well. Oh, no, we can sometimes forget. And I get caught with this myself too. So I'm like, oh, shit, I've dealt with a lot. I've overcome and dealt with a lot in my life. And so through the group again, we remind each other of that, which develops efficacy. And resilience is about enhancing psychological assets, really. So proactively, the worst thing we can do with the problem, as we know as business owners, is avoiding it. Right? It just doesn't go away, right? So we bring a problem in, bring a thing that we need to overcome, again, work together to come up with ideas to overcome it. Using and drawing and reflecting on successes from the past as well. And optimism, as I said, can be facilitated. Yes, it's an attitude, but it's actually a behaviour. So it's a perspective developing realistic optimism. So I succumb at times to unrealistic optimism. And so unrealistic optimism relates to causes almost that irateness, that anger, that frustration that, what, it didn't actually take me half an hour to get from here to there? I thought, I don't need half an hour, I only need 2 hours to get that job done. It's unrealistic optimism and leaves us vulnerable to stress. So realistic optimism is basically anticipating, confronting a potential negative situation, not hiding, in a shell and avoiding it, coming up with a plan. The more we come up with a plan, so anxiety, here's a very quick Psych 101 for you. Anxiety is very prevalent. Anxiety is essentially a disorder about uncertainty. It's an overwhelming distress response because we're preoccupied with something that's uncertain or the idea that something might happen. One tool that I almost always go to with clients is, how can we create certainty? Think of the worst case scenario, the thing that you're worried about. Go into it, imagine it, come up with a plan. By so doing, you are dissolving the anxieties that come along with that. They're just not there. And so you've become, what do you then become? If I've got a plan to do with something, what do I become? And optimistic. So you can see how they overlap with each other. So they're not distinct features. Together they create psychological capital, which is a positive. This is positive psychology 101. My thing that I'm most super passionate about talking about. So that's pretty well. Then how are we going for time? I know we've got Eric.
It's 20 past.
20 past 3. Well, I better wrap up. You've been wonderful. I'll just go very briefly. If anyone's interested, there's 2 options here. So as promised, so the PsyCat training program is best for around 5 to 15 people, but it can certainly be done for anyone over. It's normally $1,800 plus GST. So it includes obviously the content delivery, training resources, and importantly a 4-week follow-up. So we want to make sure that what we did on the day is still being maintained and followed through with. But if you're interested, and I want to offer a special offer today, so there's a 20% reduction for Expo attendees, so just get in touch and say, hey, I'm really keen to learn more, would like to do the program. However, if you're really excited about it and you jump on board right now, it's only going to be $1,200 plus GST. Now, if you've only got a very small team and you would like to learn more, or a bigger team than 15, we can have a discussion about what that might look like. But the same savings will still apply. So I hope you don't feel too duped, but I am in the name of trying to generate here for business, and this is what I have to offer. And I'm really confident that what I have to offer, if you feel would benefit, definitely would do so. And the best thing is you get me delivering it. How is that? And me getting to do what I love. But if there's just some food for thought as well. So coaching and consultation rates has some special packages as well that I'm going to offer. Because you might come away and go, I'm not sure about that, but I would certainly like to learn more and work with you individually to maybe develop a wellbeing initiative, or how can I learn a bit more about self-determination theory, help me apply these theories into my business. And I'm essentially going to do a special offer of 720. So that's 3 sessions plus a preliminary chat as well. It's called a connection meeting, discovery meeting. So it's 3.5 sessions for that. So just come and see me afterwards, come and find me. I'll be here around at the exhibition for the rest of the afternoon, and we can have a chat. And at the very least though, if you're really not sure, I'll leave that up for a little bit. Take a photo of that and I can book you in for a Calendly session, and we can have a private chat offline if you prefer to do that. Thank you very much. It's my absolute pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for everyone who participated. It's always a lot more valuable when people engage. So thank you.
So for those already registered for my session, which is the next one, or want to know about what is the best way to grow and scale and exit your business. So if you put your card there, whoever here and the card is drawn will win that portrait of more at the end of the session, which is 4 o'clock. So I got 30 minutes share with you when you want to hear. So hopefully I got to wait a bit because I think for people who registered, they are still waiting outside now. So hopefully some of you want to stay and listen to us.